There are probably a couple of things that come to mind when the movie Oldboy comes up in conversation. Maybe it's the hallway fight, all done in one brilliant shot that shows the perseverance of Odae-soo. Or maybe it's the octopus being eaten alive all on camera. Or maybe it's that twist. You know the one, the twist that shocked audiences and made this film a modern-day classic. From a massive premiere at Cannes to getting Quentin Tarantino's endorsement, we're getting into it all. So join us as we see what happened to Park Chan-wook's Oldboy.
웃어라. 온 세상이 너와 함께 웃을 것이다. 울어라. 너 혼자만 울게 될 것이다.
First of all, apologies for my pronunciation on some of these Korean names. I'm trying my best. And obviously, we're going to get into spoilers for this classic film, so please make sure that you've seen the big twist before I spoil it for you, because I promise you're going to want to experience it yourself. Oldboy first began its life as a Japanese manga, which ran from 1996 to 1998, and follows Shinichi Goto as he's mysteriously kidnapped and held captive in solitary confinement for a decade. Once out, he goes on a mission of revenge, trying to find the people who did this to him. Running for 79 chapters, the story is a bit different from the film that we would eventually receive. And yes, we're already getting into spoilers, so watch out. Go to this time code if you want to avoid the major ones. We would follow Odae-soo in a very similar situation, only when he was released after his long imprisonment, he would form a romantic bond with a woman while still being tormented by his captors. He's given 5 days to discover the motive for his imprisonment, where his tormentor, Woojin, would kill himself. But if he doesn't discover the truth, Woojin will kill his new lover, Mido. The eventual reveal is that Odae-soo witnessed Woojin committing acts of incest with his own sister. When Dae-soo reveals this secret to others, and after a false pregnancy test, the sister commits suicide. So he managed to imprison Odae-soo and hypnotize him, causing him to seek out Mido, which is when we get the truly most f***ed up reveal of the film. Mido is Dae-soo's long-lost daughter. Woojin made Odae-soo feel the same pain of incest. Oh, it's one of those endings that will absolutely knock your socks off and leave you thinking about it for days. How affected were you by the twist in Oldboy? Producer Sung Young Lim got the rights to the manga and toyed with the idea of making it into a film. After seeing Park Chan-wook's work, he enlisted his help in getting the film made. Having recently released Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Oldboy's tale of revenge appealed to him. So they got to work on keeping the same story structure of the manga, but giving it a unique flair. And oh, how unique. Given how difficult the role of Odae-soo was on paper, the filmmakers desperately needed a great actor to fill the part. Choi Man-suk had mostly done theater, but had made a name for himself in Our Twisted Hero in 1992. He was always at the top of the filmmakers' list early on, so they were ecstatic to get him signed. But he needed more than just acting talent, as the character shows some considerable fighting chops as well. Choi trained for 6 weeks, learning all of the fight choreography and losing 20 pounds. But what director Park Chan-wook liked the most about Choi was the faith that he had in his abilities. He knew that Choi would create a phenomenal performance without much needed guidance. Oddly enough, the only scene that Choi actually had difficulty filming was the sex scene, claiming that it was tougher than the actual action moments. For the part of Odae-soo's tormentor, Lee Woojin, Ji Tae-yu took on the part. On paper, Woojin was quite plain, and the filmmakers were worried about making him interesting. Thankfully, Ji Tae's casting solved that problem. He was meticulous with every detail, pestering the director for as much information as he could possibly get from him. He wanted to play him as a man whose mind had died, and the only thing that fills it is revenge. He practiced each line dozens of times so that the character would seem well recited in every single line of dialogue. The actor does a wonderful job, providing a sense of power and charisma. He even learned yoga for the role, though he did require some wire assistance for a scene where he needed to do a very tough locust pose. Originally, there was going to be some full frontal nudity as well, which they actually shot, but Yu changed his mind afterwards. The part of Mr. Han, who on paper is nothing more than Lee Woojin's bodyguard, went to stage actor Byung-ok Kim. Despite having no lines of dialogue, he makes quite the impression with his bleach blonde hair. For her part as Mido, Hee Jong-kang was nervous, worried she'd mess something up. When Mido brings Ode-soo to her place for the first time, Kang was having a rough go of it, but after being pulled aside by the director, she eventually got her nerves settled and used the nervous energy for the role. This works really well for the character who has this childlike quality to her. She also learned how to make sushi from a legit sushi chef in Seoul. Shot at an actual restaurant named Mediterranean, they were originally going to name the place Akira for director Akira Kurosawa, but instead opted to use the real name for budgetary reasons. It's fascinating to see the table read for such a messed up movie and see the giddiness from all the actors. It's like they don't even realize the insanity that they're going to bring upon the world. The director made a point during the table read to tell the cast that they could change the words in the script and to not stress about it. He was also adamant that no one is good at table reads and shooting, so to save the performance for shooting. I guess no one told Choi because you can see the brilliance of Ode-soo come through even in the table read. Filming for Oldboy took place in Seoul and Busan, South Korea, although the final scene was shot in New Zealand. The start of production was marked by the youngest and oldest member of the crew burning an effigy for good luck. Filming was tough, especially for Cha, who was the primary lead and in nearly every scene of the movie. At one point during the penthouse scene where Ode-soo is lying down, he actually fell asleep, missing his cue to stand up. His dedication was certainly worth it, as the character is one of the most instantly recognizable. Park Chan-wook didn't want excessive camera movement during non-action scenes, so if he could keep the camera in one place with minimal movement, he did. And he loved to switch between telephoto and wide-angle lens from one shot to the next, providing a very compelling look. The famous corridor fight that takes place all in a single shot was filmed over 3 days. While today, CGI stitching is often used in order to make multiple shots appear as though they're all one continuous take, the only bit of CGI used in this sequence was the knife stabbing into Ode-soo's back. CGI was also required for the scene involving the ants, as they obviously wouldn't have proper control over real-life ants. Plus, I don't think you can safely get an ant to crawl into someone's skin. And each of the effects is pulled off beautifully. One very controversial moment in the film came when Ode-soo eats a live octopus. There was no movie magic involved with this, and it was simply Cha eating a real-life octopus, 4 to be exact. And given his Buddhist upbringing, he prayed after eating every single one of them. Talk about a rough day at the office. The final scene shot was actually the police interrogation of a very drunk Ode-soo. Unscripted, Cha ad-libbed for nearly 15 minutes, though for pacing purposes, the scene was speed-ramped and cut up in order to occur more promptly. The score itself was composed by Lee Ji-soo, Shim Young-jong, and Cha Song-hyun, and each track was named after various films, mostly film noirs. Dressed to Kill, Out of Sight, and The Last Waltz are amongst the many names used for the score. And Ode-soo's song is appropriately titled The Oldboy. They utilized a small orchestra and layered the music over each other to make it sound bigger. The ending is ambiguous, with no clear answers as to which route Ode-soo would take. Did he manage to wipe Mido from his memory? And would he continue his relationship with her? For a film so dour, it's nice that it can end on a positive note for some. You know, those messed up f***s. And if you're curious to visit the site yourself, here are the coordinates. Oldboy released in South Korea on November 21st, 2003, and would receive a limited release in the United States on March 25th, 2005. That's right, nearly a year and a half later. It would play several film festivals, including its US debut at Sundance. The praise was out of this world, with Roger Ebert giving the film 4 stars and many hailing it the year's best. Though obviously given its awkward release date, the year would depend on your location. The film would end its theatrical run at over $17.1 million worldwide, although this film would be re-released again in 2023 for its 20-year anniversary and receive an additional $1.75 million. So I guess you can say that this made almost 19 at the box office. Oldboy would make its biggest impact at the 2004 Cannes Film Festival, where it won the coveted Grand Prix. Quentin Tarantino, the president of that year's jury, was a massive fan of the film and sang its praises. And this was a time where if Tarantino said to watch something, you made sure to f***ing watch it. And yes, I suppose we should discuss the 2013 film from Spike Lee and starring Josh Brolin. Actually, maybe we don't need to. I'll just say that Steven Spielberg was originally involved with Will Smith set to star. Thankfully, both came to their senses. Unfortunately, that didn't happen for Lee and Brolin, and we received a pointless remake only paralleled by Gus Van Sant's Psycho. Maybe we'll cover that shit show in the future. Neon Films acquired the rights to the movie and released an absolutely gorgeous 4K to go along with its theatrical re-release. It's a thing of beauty and an absolute must for fans of the film. There are few movies that provide the experience that Oldboy does. It runs the audience through the emotional wringer as a simple tale of revenge gets more and more complicated as the film goes on. There are countless classic scenes to choose from, making this one of South Korea's greatest cinematic exports. What do you think about Oldboy? Where do you think it falls on a list of all-time great South Korean cinema? Have you seen the remake? Let us know in the comments and we'll see you in the next one.